We are beginning tonight's shiur in Siman Tov Kuf Lamed Zayin. We are up to Sif Yudalud, top line on page 16. The Mechaber says in Sif Yudalud, Ein machnisin son l'dayer b'chol hamoed lezabel hasoda. We do not pen the animals. We do not bring them in on Chol Hamoed to fertilize the field. V'mechnison ha'eno Yehudi ma'atzmo. And if a guy brought the animals into the field so that they can drop their zevel over there, Mutter af b'Shabbos. That is permissible even on Shabbos. The guy did it by himself. Afilu im machzik lo tova al shech nisan. Even if you do a favor for him in return for the fact that he brought the animals in to be mazabel the field. Ubilvat shelo yiten lo sachar. As long as you do not pay him any wages for his work. Va'afilu eino nosein elas schar mizono aser. And for work that he did on Shabbos, you can't even pay him with food. Ubiyom tov yochol liten lo schar mizono. However, on Yontif, if the guy did this for you, then you would be able to pay him with food. Ubelvad shelo yiten lo sachar acher. As long as you do not pay him any other wages, no money, but yes, food for Yontif. Ubechol hamoed afilu im nosein lo sachar acher mutter. But if he does it on his own on Chol Hamoed, then you're allowed to actually pay the guy money for what he did. Ubelvad shelo yaskirenu, as long as you don't rent him out. V'lo yisayenu, and you don't help him. V'lo yimser lo shomer l'nai ratzon, and you don't give him over a guard to watch the animals. The Ramah explains Pirish. Molicha mimakom l'makom. You don't give him this shomer that's going to bring the animals from place to place. And through that, the dung comes out of the animal to fertilize the field. If the guy was a worker working by the week, or working by the month, or working by the year, then you would be allowed to assist him on Chol Hamoed. And you would be able to give him this guard that can help him direct the animals from place to place. Says the Mishabura Sivkatan Mem Aleph Tzon L'Dayer. You can't bring the animals in. Hainu shemachnisin behemos la'asada, that you bring in the animals to the field. V'shochvo sham balayla, and they lie down there at night. V'chol halaylo mitaylos habehemos b'makom l'makom, and the whole night the animals are walking around from place to place. Ad shem mizdabeles kol asada, until the entire field becomes fertilized from their excrement that comes out as they're walking around. Sifkotan membeis lazabel hasada, to fertilize the field. Afal pi she'eno biyadayim, even though you are not doing anything with your hands. Mipnei she'nira kimizabel bi'atzmo, this gives the appearance as if you're fertilizing the field yourself. V'amizabel hu tulada de choresh, and being mizabel, fertilizing the field, is a tolda of choresh. It's like plowing, it's preparing the field for planting. Mipnei shemiyapes akarka lezroba, it makes the field nicer and more ready for planting. That's all if the Jew allows the animals in to be mizabel the field. That's not allowed. But if the guy does it on his own, so then we gave different rules. L'gabe Shabbos, Yontif, v'Chol Hamoed. For Shabbos we said, Afilu im machzik lo tova al shech nisan. Even if you repay him with a favor, it would be okay as long as you don't give him any kind of wages, not money, not food. Says the Mishabura Sivkotan Mem Gimel, Afilu im machzik lo tova, even if you do good for him, you do a favor for him, Rotzalom Afilu b'Shabbos gufa, even if you're going to repay the favor on Shabbos itself, as long as you are not giving any kind of payment, that would be okay. Then we said on Yontif, you actually could give him payment in the form of food, but not in the form of money. Says the Mishabura Sivkotan Mem Dal, B'Yom Tov Yochel Rotzalom means to say La'achar Yom Tov. You give him the food as payment after Yontif. To mizonos lo milchsi kesachar mamish. By giving him food for his work, it doesn't look like you actually hired him for the job. However, this whole heter is only when it comes to this letting the animals in to be mazabel the field, where it's not a real malacha. But a guy who's doing a malacha gemura on behalf of a Jew on Yontif, then you would not be allowed to give him any kind of food as his wages. Because then it gives the appearance that you're happy with the work that he did, that he did for you. And in Os Men, the Sharat Zion points out, not only by a malacha gemura are you not allowed to pay him for his efforts with food. You also have to protest against what he's doing. You have to stop him in his tracks. He's not allowed to do it. And the Mishabura ends off Sefkadim Emdalet and says, even though the Mishabura started by saying, you'll give him the payment of food after Yontif, but then the Mishabura ends off and says, that you're able to give him the payment of food on Yontif itself. That's also going on Yontif. You can give him wages in terms of food, but not other wages. Because if you give him money, everyone will know that he did it on behalf and with the das of the Jew. And they can think that he hired him out to do the work for the days. The next category of the Mechaber was that on Chol Hamoed, we said you're allowed to even pay him as long as you don't hire him out. Says the Mishabura in Menvav Ratzlomer, means to say, Shelo Yomer La'akum Asay, you can't say to the guy, you do this job, Ve'eten L'cha Sachar La'achar Hamoed, and I'll pay you for your work after Yontif. The kol she'ein osa ein omer la'akum lasus. Anything you can't do yourself on Chol Hamoed, you cannot tell the guy to do for you. Kid l'kamad mesimin tov kuf mem gimel sif aleph. And if you look at note 24, he brings down two reasons. We'll just mention one of them. Why is it that on Chol Hamoed, whatever you can't do, you can't ask a guy to do? So says Shulchan Aruch Harav shekemoshe b'Shabbos. Just like by Shabbos, yesh chashash she'im yasa anochri malacha avura, that if the guy is going to do malacha for the Yid on Shabbos, alula ha-Shabbos lehayasos kala b'einei Yisrael. It's going to lead the Shabbos to be light in the eyes of the Yisrael. V'yavo gam hu lasas malacha, and we're afraid the Jew himself is going to come to malacha. Here you're allowing the guy to do malacha for you, it might lead you to do malacha yourself. So hu adim b'Chol Hamoed, the same thing applies by Chol Hamoed. Gazru al malachas akum kedei shelo yavo ha-Yisrael lasos malacha ba'atzmo. We don't want the guy doing any malacha on Chol Hamoed that the Jew can't do, because we're worried it will lead the Jew to do the malacha by himself. Continues the Mishabura Vaitis of Kadam Mem Zayin. We said on Chol Hamoed, you're allowed to actually pay him for the work that he does, as long as you don't hire him, you don't help him, and you don't give him this shomer l'nai ratzon. Says the Mishabura Mem Zayin, mipnei she'nira ki'ilu scharo la'akum mitchilu l'shem zeh. Because by giving him the shomer to help him do what he's doing, it gives the appearance that you hired him for this job from the beginning. Sifkatan memches b'Chol Hamoed. This was going on the last point of the Mechaber. If he was a hired worker by the week, by the month, or by the year, you could help him on Chol Hamoed. Says the Mishabura Aval b'Shabbos v'Yom Tov Asra afilu b'Schir Shana. But even if he's hired for the year, you cannot assist him on Shabbos or Yontif. V'chein limsar lo shomer asra b'Shabbos v'Yom Tov. You also would not be able to give him over the shomer on Shabbos or Yontif, even though the Mechaber ends up and says, Umosrin lo shomer l'nai ratzon, you can give him the shomer on Chol Hamoed when he is a schir for whatever amount of time, a week, a month, or a year. Says the Mishabura Memtes, Aval lischar lo shomer ba'moed asra afilu b'kon zeh. But even in this case where he's a hired worker for the week, the month, or the year, where you're allowed to bring him a shomer to help him out, but you can't hire a shomer on Chol Hamoed to help him out. Says the Mechaber Vayter Sif Tezvav, Osir liktzor hasada b'Chol Hamoed, you're not allowed to harvest the field on Chol Hamoed. Im eino nifsad im yamod ad la'achar hamoed. Assuming the field will not get ruined, the crops will not get ruined if you do not do it till after Yontif, then you are forbidden from doing kitzira, from harvesting your field on Chol Hamoed. Then ein lo mayochal, if you have nothing to eat, afilu motzei bashuk liknos, even if you could find what to buy in the shuk, we don't require you to go to the market and to go buy food when you have it in your backyard. Rather you harvest, you do the whole process to get your crops ready to be eaten on Chol Hamoed. As long as you don't do the thresh paros, as long as you don't do the threshing with cows. And that's only true that you can't do the threshing of the grains with the cows if you're only getting the food for yourself. But if you have to be threshing all the grains for the rabbim, then you can't do the threshing even through the cows. Says the Mishabura in Sivkata Nun, in Eino Nifsad, we said you can't harvest the field if the field will not get ruined. The Imhu Nifsad, because if the field will get ruined, if you don't harvest it, Mutter Lakatzro, then you are allowed to harvest it. Umistabra Dafilu Imrak Ovud Miktsaso Gamke Mutter. Says the Mishabura, it's very likely and logical that even if you're only going to lose a little bit of the field, you're allowed to harvest the entire field. And in note 25, the poskim take issue with this psak over here. Amna matzinu bekama makomos shekosav shedafka behefsed merubah tziru davar ha'aved. Even though we found in many places that a davar ha'aved, when there's going to be a loss of money, it's only permissible if it's a hefsed merubah. Not like the Mishabura says over here, even if it's only going to be oven miksaso, it's going to ruin part of the field, you could harvest the entire field. And he brings a bunch of examples. I don't want to read all of them. But if you go around halfway through the note, one that we just had, so we'll read that one. V'chein lo hitir ha'shulchan aruch la'el lotzud ishus ve'achbarim. We just had this last night. So too, the Torah, the Shulchan Aruch was not matir to trap this animal that can't see and that's digging and ruining your fields. Ve'achbarim and the mice. Elai de shinui. If he's in your wheat field, we said if it's not close to the tree field, then you can only trap him with a shinui. Because in a wheat field, these animals don't ruin so much. So if it doesn't ruin so much, you already have to implement a shinui. And so too if you want to fix a ripped garment. We're going to see later on, even though it's true by not fixing they will get torn more, you're not allowed to fix them on Chol Hamoed unless by not fixing they're going to get totally ruined. So the kasha is here, we said, even if only a little bit of the field will be ruined, that's grounds to harvest the entire field. Unless your garment is going to be totally ruined, you can't fix it. Unless your field is going to be totally ruined, you can't trap these animals in the regular way. So, Bir Hagon Rav Nissen Karelitz, Al Pi Divrei HaRamban B'Shem HaRavid. So Rav Nissen Karelitz explains, based on the Ramban B'Shem the Ravid, Shala'olam Holchim Bazeh Kefi HaTorach. We always go in each situation according to what the tircha is. Shetorech muat mutter gam im hafsed muat. If it's only a little bit of a burden to do this job, it's mutter even if the hefsed is only a little bit. A little bit of hefsed allows a little bit of tircha. V'mutarach gadol, but if it's a big burden, mutter rak behefsed gadol. So then it's mutter even if it's a hefsed gadol. Apparently what he's saying over here is that even though over here it's only going to be avad miksaso, you're allowed to harvest the entire field because harvesting the field is only a little bit of a tircha. And therefore, each case, according to what this is saying, each case has to be understood independently, depending on how much tircha there is, will determine how much of a loss it has to be. A little loss allows a little tircha. A big loss allows a big tircha. Says the Mishabura of Kadanun Aleph, Ein matzrichin oso likach. We said even if they have some food available in the marketplace, you don't have to go there, you could just go and do all these malachos for your own food. They also don't require you to go and borrow from your friend. You can go and prepare your own food. You could do borer, separate, tochen, grinding, like the regular way. Kain sarach lomar, that's the proper order. Verotza lomar means to say, the ein tzarech shinui. You don't have to do any shinui. You could do the harvesting and all of the different malachos that are needed for the food preparation. Umadeh chmiru shelo yodosh beparos, and that was the machmir that you can't do the threshing with the cows, mishum da'av shemilsa. Because that makes a lot of noise. That becomes known to everyone. But again, all these malachos that we are allowing you to do is only to do on the amount of food that you need. You can't thresh with the cows at time. The reason is, kanal, like we said before, it's av shemilsa. According to this, for that reason, any other animals would be the same problem. That also is av shemilsa, and that would not be allowed. It says the Mechaber Vader Sifta Zayin, Mi sheyesh lo kerem eitzel karmo shel eno Yehudi. One who has a vineyard bordering a vineyard of a guy. The Eino Yehudi boatzer shelo b'Chol Hamoed, and the Eino Yehudi is harvesting his grapes on Chol Hamoed. Ve'im lo yivtzar ha'Yisrael gamesh shelo yafsid. And if the Jew doesn't harvest his, he's going to end up losing out, whether people will come to take from him, or some other damage that will happen if his is the only vineyard that is still fully grown. So Yachol levatzro v'lidro chayayin, he would be allowed to harvest his grapes, v'lidro chayayin, and to trample them to get the wine out of the grapes, v'lasos echavios, and to make the barrels, v'chol tzarche hayayim below shinu, he could do all the preparations for the wine without any shinuyim. Ubilvad shelo yechavein lasos malachto b'moed, as long as he wasn't mechavein to do these things on Chol Hamoed, it just worked out that the guy did it then, and now he's stuck, he has to do it as well. He is allowed to do the entire process up until the making of the wine. Says the Mishabris of Katan and Dalad, Yochel, he's able to harvest his grapes. Ayin Taz Mashakasa B'Shem Rokeach. Look what the Taz writes, B'Shem the Rokeach. The Adam Choshev Tzarech Lahachmir Af B'Davar Ha'avid. That a person that's an Adam Choshev needs to be machmir even by something that's a Davar Ha'avid. Ubebedek Kabayas Mefakvik was there. The Bedek Kabayas takes issue with that. Umikol Makom Tov Sheyasa B'Tzina. At the very least, it's good to do it in private. Im lo she'era pam achas takolo al yidei sha'olam dimu shemuter lasos lechavin lechatchila ulaniach hamalachos al Chol Hamoed. But the only time you're allowed to do it b'tzina, if it didn't happen one time, any kind of takala, that people that saw you thought that you're allowed to be mechavin your malacha lechatchila for Chol Hamoed and do malacha on Chol Hamoed. If people once stumbled over learning from you when you were trying to do a betzina, da'oz efshir dememidas chasidus tzarach sulizar b'kigon zeh me'ata. Because once that happens already one time, it's possible that the midas chasidus will dictate that you have to be careful and as an adam chashav not to do this malacha for a davar of it on Chol Hamoed. Sivkata nunhei levatzro, we said you are allowed to do the betzira after the guy did it. Upoalim Yisraelim yicholim litol sachar. And Jewish workers that are doing the work for you that you are allowed to do are allowed to take wages on Chol Hamoed. Av sheyesh lehem malechol, even though these workers have what to eat. Ve'etzlam lo havi davar avid, they have what to eat. So that's not a problem. It's not a davar avid for them, it doesn't belong to them, so they have no problem, you're still allowed to pay them. Mikol makom huter etzlam lazos b'shvilo, still it is 100% mutter for them to do the work for you. Dumya de poel oni she'ein lo mayochal. Similar to a case of a worker who is poor, who has nothing to eat, the mutter l'balabayas litin l'malacha. So you, the balabayas, can give a poor worker, so you can give him some parnasa, give him a job to do. So even though you don't get anything out of it, you don't need it, it's not a davar of it for you, it's to help him, but you're allowed to get that benefit in order to help him. So here also, the workers are allowed to do it and get paid to help you do what you're allowed to do on Chol Hamoed. Sivkata nunvav alidro chayayin. Not only are they allowed to harvest the grapes, they're also allowed to trample them and make the wine. Hainu kishanovim yiskalkalu ad la'achar hamoed. Says the Gura, that's only true if the grapes being left off the vine will get ruined by the time Yantav is over. So then that's a davar of it. So you're not only allowed to harvest the grapes, you're also allowed to trample them and make the wine on the Chol Hamoed, because that step also would be a davar of it. And then obviously you're allowed to prepare the barrels to store the wine. You have to have everything in place once you have the wine that it should not get ruined. That concludes Siman Tov Kuf Lamed Zayin. Emir Hashem will begin next time Siman Tov Kuf Lamed Ches.